Welcome to Health Hour, a session for you by Black doctors, hosted by the Caribbean and African Health Network. Ever sat in a doctor's office thinking, they just don't get it? Or search for health advice online, but you can't understand it? Felt unheard? You're not alone, and you found your solution with Health Hour. Every Saturday at 11 a.m., this is your space where Caribbean and African healthcare professionals speak about health with a focus on Black people. We tackle the topics that keep you up at night: mental health, chronic conditions, preventive care, sexual health, men's health, women's health, heart disease, and much more. All with the cultural context that matters, because our Black doctors understand the unique challenges we face. Here is what you can expect: real talk from doctors who look like you and get it, lived experience testimonies, practical advice, illness prevention and management tips, and a space of understanding without judgment. You also get to ask questions. Your questions drive the conversation. Health Hour, where community meets Black health expertise.
Good morning, all, and welcome to Health Hour. Our host today is Dr. Vanessa Apea. Dr. Vanessa is in Ghana, and she's having a little bit of a connection issue. She'll join us shortly. You can see our lovely face in our Live Now flyer that I've just shared in the chat. Thank you all that are joining us. We also have Manchester Health Festival in North Irish Church today. I know we're being joined from there, so hello to everybody from there. It'd be very, very interesting to see who's joining us in the chat, where you're joining us from. So I am in Salford, Manchester now. I know that Dr. Vanessa is in Ghana. I wonder where everybody is joining us from. I see a few names on the chat. I see Shanna, I see Stephanie, I see Joy, Dean, Stephen. Be very interesting to see where you're joining us. If you could just type it on the chat, that would be. We'll wait a few minutes to see if our host is joining us. I'm sure she will join us shortly. While we wait, I wanted to quickly also add to our chat the flight to the festival that we have today. So if you're down in Manchester, or if you don't mind driving as well, you can join us. We're lovely to see all of your faces in person. Let me just share with you. Joining from London. Hi, Stephanie. Very nice to hear that. You can see the flyer on the chat for the event that we are doing in Manchester. Okay, wonderful. Anyone else joining from a different place? Oh, Reading. I was in Reading not long ago. Very beautiful town. All in red brick. Really, really nice. Anyone else joining from interesting place? Oh, interesting. I wonder if we have any more. Yes, audience member. Wonderful. While we wait a little bit more, I think it could be an opportunity to share with you what Khan is doing at the moment. Normally we do this at the closing, but I think it would be valuable to share with you on these items now as well. Okay. Can you see my screen? I think you can. Uh, share screen. Perfect. So, next week we have a wonderful session on the 22nd. By the way, anyone joining now, we are not closing the session. We're just buying some time as our host is having some tech issues. So please don't disconnect, and I'll be quick. Next week, we have a session on ovarian cancer, what everyone should know. So next week, we're changing the topic into women. It will be a very interesting session as always. And we'll have a lovely guest speaker and host as well on the 22nd. As I've said so much, the Health Festival is a pleasure to be collaborating with the Medical Association of Nigerians across Great Britain. So we'll be having a session on the World Harvest Christian Center in Seymour Road, and this is in South Manchester. There will be free health checks, there will be talks, music, recruitment opportunities, career advice in terms of medical profession or healthcare and allied professions within health. So come and join us, it's completely free, and we'll look forward to seeing you. We also have an upcoming carol service in December. I should say register now. This is a free event, but spots are going very, very fast. It was a wonderful, very heartwarming, very Caribbean, very African celebration of Christmas. And spots are running really fast. So do join us. Entry is free. I know there's loads of choirs already signed up from from our city of Greater Manchester. There'll be music, there'll be a play, and hopefully there'll be some Christmas new program in London called Homes, all about energy efficiency, and very much based on Croydon Lambert Collision, Southwark. They do all sorts of carbon monoxide advice, energy efficiency advice. So we're gonna touch base with the team. The email is on the screen as well as the phone number. And last but not least, this service that we have in Cannes, which is our advocacy service, that offers a plethora of services within itself. So we have a domestic violence service, we have home office sessions, family advocacy sessions, legal dropping, so all sorts of legal advice. This is not something we want to miss out because it's completely free again. We need the bridge of access to our to our community. So share. Is Dr. Vanessa with us? I don't think it is, but I see that Dr. is very ready. Dr. Joe is a very big advocate for Cannes. He's always supporting us throughout from the very beginning. So thank you, Dr. Joe, for today. Today we're speaking on the topic of Black men's mental health, about breaking the silence, about breaking the stigma. So we look forward to hearing from you. I'll pass on to you, Dr. Joe.
Thank you, Natasha, and good morning, everybody. Always a pleasure to be here, and always happy to support the work of Cannes and indeed the Black community in general. All right, I will be sharing on the subject of men's health, breaking the silence. And if it's okay, I'll just share my slides, put it in presentation mode. Excellent. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. My name is Joseph. I'm a local GP here in Manchester. My surgery is in Rochdale. I do a lot of things, including being the clinical lead for the Caribbean and African Health Network, CAN, in terms of mental health. This particular subject is very close to my heart for a number of reasons. Not only am I the mental health lead for CAN, but I'm also the mental health lead for my practice. And I'm also a GP with special interest in mental health. But more so because there's been a lot of talk about mental health, and somewhere along the line, men have been sort of, I don't want to use the word overlooked, but sometimes they're not, the light has not really been shined onto the issues surrounding men. All right, so by way of introduction, I've said here that unfortunately, mental health is still associated with a lot of stigma, especially within the Afro-Caribbean Afro-Caribbean community. You know, there's still people who are worried about being labeled as being depressed. People don't like the fact that they need help, or that they may be anxious, or they may be suffering with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, you know, or there might be some underlying problem like autism or ADHD, which the diagnoses have increased more and more in recent times. So there's a lot of, still a lot of stigma where people expect you to just get on with things, especially within the Black community. It's evident both from the people who suffer it and the general population. And one of the reasons I think, in my opinion, is that generally mental health is poorly understood. If someone's bleeding, you can see that they're bleeding, and it's easy to see that they're bleeding, and you can give assistance. If someone has diabetes, their sugars are all over the place, they know what to do to get the right kind of help. With mental health, it's a bit more complex and a lot more intangible. You can't really see the mental health, as it were. And sometimes you need a health professional to actually tease it out. I must say that even amongst health professionals, it's sometimes often misunderstood, sometimes overlooked. And hopefully we are hoping that with talks like this, we'll be able to change that narrative and sort of move things along so that more people are aware of the plight and indeed the importance of mental health. So because that's why I said today we attempt to shine a light on what I call a growing epidemic and hopefully advance our understanding of the topic. I like to use case studies, and some of you may recognize this gentleman in the picture. He's a 3-time Mobo award-winning artist. Mobo is the Music of Black Origin Award. It's a British award thing, and I think he's won it 3 times. He's won a few other awards. He's very popular. He does rap music. Some of you may be wondering how I know him, but you know, I listen to rap music too. I'm quite eclectic. I listen to all kinds of music. But his story touched me because at the height of his fame, at the very height of his fame, at the pinnacle, he admitted to going through periods of depression, anxiety, and withdrawal to the point where it affected him. And here is an article that was written that he spoke on. I'm using his words, not mine. And in his words, he said he was talking about how to be a proper man, that this was his conception of what it means to be a proper man. And he said, suppressing our emotions, acting tough, using aggression as a form of expression means that men in particular are completely inequipped to cope with all the obstacles and challenges that life throws their way. And he goes on further to say that any sign of weakness on my behalf would make my mom anxious and would cause my friends to tease me. And any opportunity my dad and I had to open up and to go a layer deeper, we laughed off, favoring silence over honesty. This chap is called Governor B, for those of you who don't know. And he went through a phase of depression. And I think he started talking about toxic masculinity, where men don't feel enabled or empowered to speak about their weaknesses and the challenges that they've gone through. And it's quite interesting, really, because he's a real life person that you can check it out, and we can all identify with. He's a young man. He's only 36 years old, but he's, with all the things that he's achieved nationally and internationally, he still went through a period of where, his mental health was challenged. The key part for me was that he didn't have an outlet, or he found it tough to actually speak about it and to talk about it. The second statement there really touched me. It said, any sign of weakness on my behalf would make my mom anxious would cause my friends to tease me, and any opportunity my dad and I to open up to go on a deeper layer, they laughed off. A lot of men talk about the fact that when they speak about their weaknesses, either their spouses they think that they'll get judged by their spouses. They think they'll appear weak to their children. They even believe that they'll appear weak to other men. And so unfortunately, this then perpetuates that silence that, in the mafia, they talk about the code of silence, or meta, where nobody snitches on each other. But here, in terms of this mental health issue, men don't feel comfortable talking about a mental health because it's almost looked upon as a weakness rather than something that needs to be addressed. And that then leads to further issues. And I'll give you examples. I've tried to help us out here by giving us examples of the commonest reasons why men don't attend. This list is not by any means exhaustive, but the common one here is masculinity and stoicism. Seeking medical help is a sign of weakness. That's the general idea. This whole thing we're talking about mental health, I think it was 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, one of the councils in Manchester, in South Manchester, they put together about £1 million worth of grants, in particular targeting young men between the ages of 18 and 25. What was the reason for that? In a space of, can't remember now, is it 6 months or 12 months, about 2 or 3 men, young men, had committed suicide, had taken their lives. And so the council recognized that there's a gap here, there's a problem that needs addressing. There's an issue here where men are suffering silently and don't feel that there's an outlet or an opportunity for them to get help. So some of the common reasons are, we feel seeking medical help is a weakness. There is the issue of fear and denial, fear of diagnosis or having a bad diagnosis, or even the fear of their lifestyle being judged. Some people are smokers, some people drink, some people like to party and rave, and they feel coming to the medical team or the medical people will sort of bring this to light and make them feel more diminished. The thing about men is that we thrive on respect, and a lot of men, even if they don't tell you, we interpret everything from the perspective of respect. If you look at me funny, it's not about your eyes, it's not about your clothes, it's about respect. If you serve me dodgy food, it's not about the food. It's not even about the price of the food. It's about respect. If you cut across me on the road, it's not about the cutting across, it's not about the time, it's about respect. So men look at things from a point of view of respect. And so if they feel they're going to go to a place where they're going to feel disrespected or undermined, they're not going to go there. Obviously, number 3, embarrassment and discomfort with personal examinations. A lot of men would tell me that, and a lot of doctors would testify to this, men don't like being examined intimately. For whatever reason, they feel it's embarrassing. It's, people sticking their fingers where they shouldn't be sticking their fingers into. And unfortunately, this perpetuates illness. I had a very terrible and sad case of a gentleman. He wasn't Caribbean. He was a 52-year-old Caucasian man. He'd had a problem in his back passage for several months. He'd been bleeding from the back passage. He'd had pain. He was losing weight. It took his wife to force him and threaten him for him to come to the surgery. And even when I offered to examine his back passage, he was still, eventually he agreed. And by the time I examined him, he had rectal cancer, which unfortunately killed him within 3 months. If he had come earlier, that is something that is treatable. That is something that a lot of people survive. It just goes to show you in a real life example, how these things can affect us. Obviously, reasons why people don't attend: work-life balance. Most men are the breadwinners in their homes. And so they're busy working round the clock, making sure that everything is ticking over nicely, making sure that the bills are paid. Thankfully, with the advent of telephone consultations, online consultations, and things like that, people are able to. I could talk to you for days on this. Like, honestly, there was a young man, a Nigerian chap, Igbo guy, 37. I can't remember how old, 38, can't remember. he came into the problem was he never got a checkup ever in his life, but he was always breathless. So one day I grabbed him. He didn't even have an appointment. I just grabbed him, took his bloods. Turned out he was diabetic, he was anemic. The hospital rang us with the blood test result and he got admitted straight away. So there are things that happen that we feel, oh, we're too busy. And a lot of times my colleagues will attest to this. Most men, when they come to the surgery, they'll tell you, well, my wife made me come, or my mother made me come, or somebody. It's never really them. They feel that they trust in their self-care and we tend to minimize symptoms. I'll say we because I'm a man too. And I do it sometimes. We minimize symptoms. We think, oh, it's just a headache. And it might not just be a headache, There's also lack of education. There's evidence to suggest that men are in general, less informed than men about health matters, generally. And women are more likely to go to the GP or go to a health professional than men would. Also, previous negative experiences from other men. One gentleman, lovely gentleman, 46-year-old man, he came to me reluctantly asking for a PSA test. And the first thing he said to me was, I hope you're not going to examine me. And I said, why? He said, well, one of his mates said to him that when they examined him, they stuck the finger in his bum and he didn't like it. And so I said, okay, there's another way we can do this test without necessarily being invasive. Only if that comes to be positive, then. So previous negative experiences from other men will put people off. Why are we talking about mental health in men? Now, suicide ranks as the third leading cause of deaths in 10 to 24-year-olds. This is from the US. It's a similar picture in the UK. Suicide and depression have tripled in the last 40 to 50 years in under 25s. I don't think you need to be a medic to actually know this because a lot of people now talk about depression. And unfortunately, these words are banded around and I always, in my talks, I try to redefine terms. I'm going to be defining mental health in a moment because most of what we call depression or anxiety is not really anxiety and it's not really clinical anxiety or clinical depression. It has to be, it becomes a disorder when it persists longer than 4 to 6 weeks and it is strong enough to disrupt your daily living. In other words, it affects how your life is being lived. Anyway, in the UK, the highest cause of death in men under the age of 45 is suicide. Yep, this is a fact. Men under the age of 45, the highest cause of death is now suicide. I couldn't believe it myself. It was just, I got this from the British Psychological Society. They reckon that this is the silent epidemic. We talk about COVID being an epidemic. We talk about, what's that thing that's coming back? Mumps came back. The viral infection came back among universities a couple of years back. It became a bit of an epidemic. An epidemic now, or pandemic now, is suicide among men. If you narrow it down to age groups, the age group that is worst affected are men between 40 and 45 years. The thinking behind this is obviously midlife crisis, the thinking that perhaps they've gotten to a certain age where they think they ought to be achieving more, but they're not quite there yet. Or they begin to compare with their colleagues and their contemporaries, and they find or muted me, and they find out in their minds that they aren't measuring up to other people. And so we don't know all the reasons. Keeps muting me. I'm going to speak to the computer people. Is it because Sam isn't here? Sam is the person who normally runs this. It must be some kind of error.
No. Everything is fine. It might be a tech issue. Apologies, Dr. Joe. We'll keep an eye.
All right, no problem. Whoever it is no longer on my Christmas list. Let's just put it that way. So in the UK, the highest cause of death in men under the age of 45 is suicide. And I was talking about the fact that, if you narrow it down, it's multifactorial. There's lots of different reasons, but one of the things that have been proposed is sort of midlife crisis. the Office of National Statistics did a survey just in February this year, and they found out that just in 1 month, 45.8% of women compared to 33.5% of men had attempted to make contact with their GP practice for themselves or for someone else within the household within that time frame in 28 days. This was sort of on the back of, there's a young gentleman, he was only 43 years old, Caucasian lad. He began to experience chest pain. It's in the BBC. I think it was published in April. He was having chest pain and he didn't go to the hospital. He kept on thinking it would get better, it would get better, it would get better. Then he started vomiting and he thought it would get better until he started rolling on the floor and his wife called an ambulance. Thank God for wives and the women around us. It turned out that he had a gallbladder infection and he was almost becoming septic. Fortunately, he's alive to tell the tale. But it just goes to buttress the point about how men don't want to get medical attention. All right, so let's take a step back a little bit and try and emphasize a couple of things regarding mental health, because when I find out that when I talk about mental health, most people have an idea of what they think mental health is or should be. Most people have an impression. And most of the time, the impression is the rabid guy on the street who's torn off his clothes, is running around, can't be controlled, talking around widely, wide-eyed, unkempt, and that's what they think mental health is, somebody who's mad, basically. And to all intents and purposes, that is not necessarily, that is part of it, obviously. In fact, that is a small part of it compared to what happened. So I like to define mental health as a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his true potential. That's stable or good mental health, in which an individual realizes his true potential, is able to cope with the normal stresses of life, work, and productively make a contribution to society. There's lots of different definitions of mental health, but this is my favorite one because it encapsulates how we're supposed to operate. There are stresses of life, but the inability to cope with those normal stresses of life and become productive and contribute to society, if this continues to persist, that is when it becomes a mental health issue. And so there's a spectrum of different things. You know, it ranges from PTSD, anxiety, depression, undiagnosed autism, undiagnosed ADHD, bipolar, ADHD. And I've said here, a lot of people suffer with mental health and they're not even aware of it. I think it's Psychiatry UK who have suggested that almost 1/3 of people who suffer with mental health have not been diagnosed with mental health. It's a very conservative estimate. And the other issue sometimes is that most of the mental health features that are found most mental health features are found in people who don't necessarily suffer with mental health. So for example, people get anxious. Every time Man United is playing, I get a little bit anxious because they're not playing very well. And, so you can get anxious sometimes. There are some people you get anxious when your partner is driving. And I won't mention names. There are some people whose wives drive like taxi drivers and they get anxious when their wives are driving. That does not mean you have a mental health issue. So there are some people that get anxious when their spouse cooks, but let's not go into all that. The key distinguishing feature is when your symptoms are persisting and debilitating to the point of affecting daily function. This is one of the reasons why we tend not to prescribe antidepressants until after 3 or 4 weeks of an issue, because sometimes a lot of these symptoms will resolve by themselves if it is not true or clinical depression. We've mentioned this before. What are the risk factors for mental health? So we need to understand in terms of recognizing, so I've looked at recognition as well as risk factors. And when you see unnecessary irritability, quick to be angered, outbursts, or hostility, because one of the things Governor B was saying in his write-up was sometimes he was joyful, sometimes he was very angry and hostile. And he didn't even understand why that was the case. But it was unfortunately an underlying depression issue. Relationship breakdowns obviously can cause people to suffer with mental health issues, social isolation, incarceration. Now, I was talking to some parents, and I'm actually in the process of looking at getting involved with the criminal justice system, not as an inmate, mind you, but maybe as a magistrate or something. And we found out that disproportionately, a lot of young Afro-Caribbean boys are often detained and, sometimes rightfully incarcerated because of their illnesses. And we find out that sometimes the reason for that is there isn't a mentorship program, or they feel isolated, they feel estranged. There isn't that social support. There's an old African proverb that it takes a village to bring up a child. So social isolation plays a crucial part. Substance abuse, drugs and alcohol, physical illness, disability, especially chronic diseases, access to medications and weapons. I interviewed a young 15-year-old boy, I think he was 14, and I asked him, why do you carry a knife? And he said to me candidly, he said, "Uncle, I carry a knife because other people carry knives." And I tried to reason with him and make him understand that by carrying a knife, first of all, you make yourself a target to the police. Number two, if you carry a knife, you're more likely to use it. But his mentality was, this is self-defense. If somebody pulls a knife on me, I want to be able to pull a knife too. So it then begs the question, where are these 14 or 15-year-olds getting knives from? That's a total different conversation entirely. Loss of a friend or family member. Every one of us here knows the pain of bereavement and loss. And also previous attempted suicide or self-harm. All right. So you have to, in order to be able to prevent this, we have to look at all of the risk factors involved and have a high index of suspicion. In other words, when someone has unhealthy outbursts, they're excessively moody, excessively withdrawn, they're not able to keep a job, they keep jumping from one employment to the other, they're excessively violent for no reason. Nowadays, I have come to a more, what's it called now, more empathetic view. Maybe that's why I'm in the job that I am, but when people come and they're very aggressive, the point I'm making is I always feel that there's usually something behind it. There's something going on here that we haven't quite put a finger on. And when you check it out, it's either child abandonment, it's either use of drugs, or that they've been bullied, or they've been molested. Men get molested too. So early intervention or high index of suspicion is very important. Let me just say that very categorically that services are often limited nationally in the UK. There's a lot of reasons for that, funding, etc. Sometimes it's even lack of engagement from the users. And that's a big issue with the Afro-Caribbean community. We just don't go. We don't go to doctors. We don't go for vaccinations. We don't take part in surveys. We don't, and we need to change that. This is one of the reasons why in 2020 or so, I got involved with the health talks and have been doing so for so many years. It's because I see this stigma. I see this sometimes almost it's unhealthy aversion of health professionals. So the key is to seek help, avoid social isolation. There's no weakness in getting help. There's also late onset diagnosis of ADHD and autism, which we all know. I just want to quickly go back to the slide that I picked up earlier on, because I know some of us came in a little bit late. But this is Governor B, an award-winning rapper who suffered with depression. And he wrote this in an article from 2021 when he suffered for a period of depression. Notice the title of it was How to Be a Proper Man. A proper man. And he later on talks about toxic masculinity, but he says, suppressing our emotions, acting tough, using aggression as a form of expression means that men in particular are completely ill-equipped to cope with all of the obstacles and challenges that life throws their way. Remember my definition of mental health, the ability to be able to cope with the normal stresses that life throws at you, because life will throw stress at us. That is a given. There will be issues. from time to time. There will be disappointment, you'll lose money, you'll be betrayed, the train will be late, your car will have a problem. Those are normal stresses of life. You didn't offend anybody in your past life. It's not because Man United are losing. There's things will happen. And I like this as well. It says, any sign of weakness on my behalf would make my mom anxious, cause my friends to tease me, and any opportunity, we laughed it off, favoring silence over honesty. The talk today is to hopefully stop us from favoring silence and to speak more about mental health. Thank you. Any questions? I think my host has gone AWOL today, so I will be both host and speaker today. But that's okay. Natasha, are you thinking of standing
I
in
am
for
here.
Vanessa?
Hi.
Oh,
Dr.
Vanessa,
Joe.
we've got you back.
No, thank you so much. And you're wonderful as always. And apologies to everyone. I was here, but internet failed me. So it's a delayed welcome to you, Dr. Joe, but your family. So I don't need to I didn't even need to say anything in the beginning anyway. But just a huge welcome to everyone and a huge thank you to Dr. Joe. And I think that there's questions already that have come through to me as you've been speaking, Dr. Joe, as ever, because it's a topic that as you highlight, it may not also be the men on the call that are listening or are aligning to it, but also it may be the family members and women in their lives that are concerned for them as well. So we've got questions from both ends of the spectrum. So looking forward to sharing it with you. And as ever, please continue. I am here. So please continue to interact with me so that I can get the questions out to Dr. Joe. But we have the chat, which is open for everyone. And if you feel comfortable to put your hand up and speak directly, please do. But please know that this is recorded. So I'm just going to go to my first question that I've received, and it's a comment and a question. So first of all, it's thanking you for this topic and saying that they have personally, and they've asked me not to say their name, they have personally been through really, really severe bouts of depression and clinically depressed, and found it very, very difficult to explain to family and friends what he was going through. And so just to ask, are there any assets or anywhere that he can direct family and friends so they can start to understand what he's going through? And I hope I've paraphrased that well enough. So if the person wants to add any further detail, please let me know.
Thank you, Vanessa. Yeah, that's a very good comment, question. Unfortunately, it's a recurring theme. It is a recurring theme. First of all, I would say that within the Caribbean and African Health Network, we do have a mental health section where you can come to confidentially. Confidentiality is paramount, and you can speak to someone. So this is the way we do it. We have trained counselors on board, and if they can't help you for whatever reason, they tend to escalate it. That's where I get involved. And I have a network of GPs and psychiatrists that we engage. And all of this is completely free. All of this is completely free to you as part of our service to the community. The second thing is, I would say that there are quite a few men's charities that are out there. One of them I spoke for a few months ago, last year actually. It's called Men's Talk. And they're particularly focused on this topic today, the fact that men are not really outgoing, or then they don't have outlets to talk about their issues. It's called Men Talk Ubuntu, I think, if you check them out. There's quite a few. I actually run a men's group as well, where I mentor men. And it's open to everybody. You can come and speak to us. You can get our details. But yeah, it's a recurring thing where we don't know where to go when there are issues that are facing us, and there are issues that are facing us. So I think the first port of call will be to speak to CAN, the Caribbean and African Health Network. If someone can put the details of how to do that there. I have been contacted a few times. I have even had to attend a hospital once or twice on behalf of someone who needed it, who needed an advocate of some sort in order to push through their case. And we're happy to do that. Don't feel isolated. This is exactly what CAN was set up for, to bridge that gap between what obtains in general and what's happening within our community in order to help you step forward with your healthcare. So please don't suffer in silence. So these are the different things. If you check it out, there's quite a few. There's Relate, which is not necessarily for Afro-Caribbeans, but Relate is good for relationship issues. There's quite a few charities out there that are specifically out there for men. Those would be the first port of call that I would suggest.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. And there's a question that has come up from a couple of people, and it's something I directly, you know, I think it's a really good question that I wish I had known when I was younger as well, because it was, what are some helpful things to say and what should we avoid saying when a man opens up about his mental health? And the reason that I bring a personal aspect to it, because I always ever feel guilty about a very close friend. We're still very close friends, but when he opened up about the difficulties that he was having, I don't think I responded in the right way. And I tried to make it a bit too jovial, and I always regret that. So I think this is I think this is something that many people would really benefit from. Just some comment statements and approaches.
Thank you, Vanessa. That's a really, really, really good question, because I have actually experienced that from some of the women around me. And one of the things you don't ever want to say to a man is man up, especially when they're talking about their mental health issues. First of all, it takes a lot for a man to come and talk about his vulnerabilities. Most men don't talk about it. Even to their doctors, they don't talk about their vulnerabilities. So if they ever speak to you about their vulnerabilities, there is some element of trust there. So if you then say to them, oh, man up, or you diminish or you don't take that issue as being important, immediately, I counsel families in my other hat as a pastor. And one of the major problems husbands have is when I've opened up to her or somebody else, they have used that knowledge against me in some other, oh, so it's your anxiety playing up again. And like I said, men interpret everything from a perspective of respect. We need to break it down and understand who we are. I'll be very honest with you. I didn't get it until in my late 20s, early 30s, why I behaved the way I did. Because as a man, everything is interpreted from a perspective of respect. If you look at me funny on the football field, it's disrespect. It's not because you're a better player, it's not because of anything, it's respect. And that's why you see gangs in London, in Manchester, they're fighting over estates that don't even belong to them. None of them have a mortgage. None of them actually, it's baffling to me as an adult now looking at the whole thing. One patch of grass from there to there, and you're saying that this is my territory. It's all about respect. It's all about respect. So going in terms of what not to say, the first thing is, if ever a man comes to you, as a woman or somebody else, a man comes to you and says, this is the problem I'm having, please pay attention to them. I have a reputation for, in my surgery, when a man comes and they have a 10-minute appointment, I often turn it into a 20-minute appointment. Why? Because I don't know when next this guy is going to come again. So I'm grabbing him. I'm dealing with his problem initially. I'm doing a health check on him. Everything I can. And a lot of the times, a lot of guys actually, they appreciate it. I have a 57-year-old man who's he's half Italian, half, I can't remember the other half, but he was suffering for a long time. Look, he had problems. He had hypertension. He just wouldn't come. He was a smoker. His wife finally got him to come and speak to me. And unknown to me, I was just doing my normal things. Unknown to me, after speaking to him for 20 minutes, he quit smoking. He started taking his blood pressure medication. So his wife came back and said, "What did you say to my husband? I've been telling him the same thing for years." It's about approach. First of all, now you've come alongside him and said, "Look, I understand what you're going through. I understand this is an issue for you. You're not alone in this. I get it." And so that perspective alone reduces the pressure that men are under to feel that they have to perform. And Governor B puts it right when he talks about toxic masculinity, where we're not allowed to show how vulnerable we are, where we're not allowed to show the fact that we're suffering. Because men do suffer. Men are emotional as well. Fun fact, in terms of mental health, women have, in terms of numbers, women are more affected. But in terms of severity, men have the more severe symptoms of mental health. You go figure. So in terms of when men come to us with issues, we have to pay attention, because one of the risk factors for the severity of a mental health illness is being male. So being male automatically puts you at a higher risk of a more severe mental health problem. Some of the other things are if you're unemployed, if you're not in a relationship, you're single, previous history of mental health in your family, if there is substance abuse. But just being male has increased your risk of a mental health problem. So we need to pay attention to our boys and our men because they are at risk. That is the message today.
No, definitely. No, I also wanted to kudos to you. I love what you say about the fact that you go the extra mile when you do see a guy to give them the extra time, because I think it would be lovely that they knew that you've done that as well, because even the act of you doing that is just letting someone know that, you know, they're seen and they're valid. There's a thank you so much. There's loads of questions coming through, and there's one that just I'm going to read it for the exact wording, and it's a mum who says, thank you so much for talking about respect, because that's the definite issue with my sons. The problem I have is that I don't respect the way that they are behaving, but I am also worried about their mental health. And I am struggling with that because they are making bad decisions that could ultimately result in an outcome that no one wants to see their child to go through.
Yeah, sorry, what was the question in that? It sounded like a statement.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I get where she's coming from. So I don't know in this particular instance if there's a man in the picture. The truth of the matter is, Vanessa, when it comes to men, especially younger men, there needs to be an older man figure in the picture for you to be more successful. It doesn't mean that you can't be successful as a single mom, but for you to increase your chances of success, then there has to be a man in the picture. It's either their father, it has to be a mentor, somebody else needs to be in the picture. Up until 2 years ago, maybe I need to go back to it, I ran a mentoring group for boys. I don't know if I told you about this, Vanessa, but we started off as three boys. Around the pandemic, we grew to 80 children because girls started joining in as well. And in the last 18 to 24 months, I just haven't had the time to do it. I've collaborated with other charities. And scenarios like this, women will bring their sons to us. And we would speak to them. And I can tell you one of them is in university now. He was about to be kicked out of school because of aggression. He was out of control. His mom couldn't control him. I personally mentored that one, took him out. I have guys now with me who helped me to do this mentoring, but that one I remember. And so basically there has to be a man in the picture. I don't know how else to put it. The research suggests that the greatest predictive factor of success in how men or boys turn out is if there's a father in the house. That is research. I didn't make that up. So while we honor and we honor our single moms and things, I think you have to now think outside the box, because boys respond to men. That's just what it is. So if it's not the father, then there has to be another male figure in that household to bring that child up. I hope that makes sense.
No, completely. Thank you so much. And another question is, am I right in thinking and considering biochemistry related deficits that can make you present or linked with depressive presentations like vitamin B12?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, low iron, low vitamin D, and low B12 can cause fatigue. Even an underactive thyroid can cause fatigue. And all these symptoms can mimic depression. When I did my talk on depression here years ago, I think it's 2 years ago, one of the things we do, I think we teach this to medical students as well. When somebody comes and says they're depressed, they're low, one of the things we always do is to check biochemical parameters. So low vitamin B12, low vitamin D, low iron, an underactive thyroid, even diabetes can cause tiredness, which can mimic signs of depression. So yes, there are biochemical factors that can potentially, sort of cause that.
Great, thank you. And there's a question about a particular phase of life, and I think it's a really great question. So men seem to suffer in silence. When a woman is having problem conceiving, they openly discuss it, but when a man has a challenge in the same area, a man will be in denial and would never want to discuss it. So how do they get help?
Well, this is the crux of what we're doing today, because right from when you're a boy, you are taught to keep it, hold it in. You can't show any sign of weakness. You are taught to man up, as it were. And so we now need to reorientate our men and re-educate ourselves to the fact that being open is not a sign of weakness. We have to educate people to the point where more and more people are. This is why I think Kant right now is actually doing an outreach somewhere in the city, doing health checks and things because some people, you can talk yourself blue in the face, they will not come for checkup. Men especially, they will not come for checkup. As you must ask any GP, when a man comes in, they'll say, "My wife asked me to come," or "My mother asked me to come." So I think it's a gradual process of reorientation. And for us who are looking at them, who love them, who are their partners, their sons, their fathers, who will say, "You know what, you need to get this looked into," and to encourage them gently to do that.
No, thank you.
A lot of patience is involved.
No, definitely. And I just want to give a huge shout out, as you mentioned, that there is a fantastic health festival that is just starting in Manchester, and it's been set up by MANSAG in association with Khan. MANSAG are the Medical Association of Nigerians across Great Britain. I know that you guys are watching, so thank you. And apologies, I was due to welcome you in the beginning, had my internet been working. So thank you for being here. And again, also to everyone, thank you for all the questions and comments. There's one comment, and I think related to your question, to your response earlier, and someone else has sent me a private message just about the fact of having the man in the house. And there's one comment / question, responsible father or just any man in the house?
Well, I'm not talking about a sperm donor. I'm talking about a father. Because there's a difference between somebody who biologically contributed to a child being born and somebody who actually fathers you. And sometimes a father is not necessarily your biologic father. When I was growing up, I was privileged to have lots of great men around me, both within and outside. And I'll be very honest, some of them were more outside than inside. Because my father believed that as boys, we should be okay. There was one particular guy who mentored me, who understood what my challenges were as a young man, and he took me under his wing and really, really helped. So it's more about having men who are savvy, who are aware, and who are willing and able to contribute. There's something that, there's a survey that was done. I was attending one of these charity events, I can't remember now, but Khan was there, a few other Black organizations were there. They sampled all these children, they were all Black children. And they said, what is the most significant, important thing that you expect from your dad? Vanessa, can you guess what it is? He said they want their dad to be present. I was shocked. I was blown away as a dad. because these are children from all walks of life, all socioeconomic different degrees, boys and girls, and they were young. So I was thinking, oh, maybe they want their dad to have money, or they want their dad to support Man United, like I do, but the single across the board, what they wanted was a dad who is present. And that really touched me. So it's not even about being there, it's about being present.
Yeah.
Because even if the person is responsible, if you're there and you're not present, then it doesn't really help the case at all.
Mm-hmm. No.
I hope that answered that question.
No, thank you. And it's one of those discussions that could go on for a long time, actually, just about unpacking that. And this relates. There's another question, related. It says my father was never present besides financially. I wish he was more involved, and I knew his side of the family. I feel well, but my girlfriend keeps saying that I should speak to someone, but I'm fine. Why unpack it? And I want to thank the person who was really open and vulnerable to share that. Because I'm sure it'll help many people.
Yeah. I mean, look, the fact that you're saying it, and I always say this, that it's the people around us that will determine whether we're really fine or not. All right. For example, I can't come to you, Vanessa, and say I'm a really good mentor. Mm-hmm. It's my mentees that will say to me that I'm a good mentor. I can't go to Khan and say I'm a wonderful speaker. It's the audience that tells me that. So even as a man, it is, and it's not necessarily only based on feedback, but it is the response you're getting from people around you that determines whether you're really fine. And part of that is self-awareness and emotional intelligence. So if your girlfriend is pointing towards something, there are things that perhaps she's seen. I would encourage you to either get a life coach or get some sort of mentorship. And, again, going back to the spiritual side of things, evidence suggests that some kind of spirituality, whether you go to the mosque, the church, the temple, helps better than no spirituality at all. And why I bring that up is that pastors, imams, and things are good places to start from. They're not perfect, and there's always issues there. There could be issues there, but talking to somebody often helps rather than talking to nobody. So I would encourage you to find a men's group or some of the men's charities that I mentioned. Men Talk is quite good. They have events from time to time. Speak to somebody and submit yourself to evaluation. I have three mentors. I'm being vulnerable now. I have three men that I will not make a decision about anything in my life without speaking to these three men. It's interesting because it developed organically. I didn't plan it that this will. One of them is my biological dad. I will not make a major life decision without speaking to him because he's one of my greatest mentors. I have another one for medical issues, anything related to my medical advancements, my career, I go and speak to him. Another one is about spiritual issues. If I have anything to do with spiritual ministry, I go and speak to him. So we have to have people around us that are speaking into our lives for us to be balanced, because all of us have blind spots. And if you don't think you have a blind spot, that is a blind spot itself. So it's really important that we become self-aware to the point that we know that we have needs, even when those needs are not quite apparent. And it seems that we've lost Vanessa again. Well, we love you, Vanessa, from Ghana. Whenever you're coming back, make sure you bring some goodies from Ghana. Don't bring Ghanaian jollof rice because Nigerian jollof rice is better. Anyway, over to you, Natasha.
Dr. Joe, there was a response back from one of our audience members. So she said that not necessarily, I'm going to just read word from word because I don't have the same talent as Dr. Vanessa to summarize things. So not necessarily a sperm donor. So happy about the way Dr. Joe answered the question about a man in the house who cares and mentor, but not necessarily a sperm donor. I think what this is referring to is that old perceptions of being a father. So just, being in the house, in the bills, and perhaps not focusing enough on the education and the pathways that the child is staying in. Apologies if I'm interrupting. I think that lady that. I don't know if there's anything you want to say to that.
No, I think a lot of dads, and I've been guilty of this myself in the past. A lot of dads would tell you that sometimes we get carried away with paying bills, working, sorting out career, and sometimes we're busy saving the whole world and we don't pay attention at home. So there has to be some measure of intentionality to make sure that you mentor your own children. And like I said, it's not just about being at home. It's about being present. Are you doing their homework with them? Are you knowing who their friends are? Are you going to their events? Are you concerned about what they're doing? Are they able to open up to you? I don't ever want a situation where my son or my daughter will be like, I'm in trouble. I can't talk to my dad. I want them to be in a situation where I'm in trouble. The first person I need to talk to is my dad. He'll know what to do. So that's the way I try to bring up my kids. So that if you're in trouble, come and talk to me. Let's bring the issue to the table, and so that even when they've done wrong, I said to them, this is wrong, or they're not doing well in school. This happened a couple of years ago. One of my kids, they're not doing well in school. Sit down with him. What's going on? How do we make this better? I started doing his homework with him. And now his grades are getting up to 70. So it's about, I spoke to a friend of mine who's a single mom, and she called me, and she's a big guru, a coach, blah, blah, blah. She's a boss lady. And I said, this time you want me to speak is homework time with me and my son. And she was almost crying that I wish I had a man who would do that for my children because their dad was not there. So it's things like that it's those little things that really, really make a difference in children's lives. It's not just about being in the house. It's about sort of being present and being involved with their activities, attending their school plays, being there when they have issues, that sort of thing. And it takes intentionality, I must tell you, because it was hard for me initially as well. Not because I'm a bad dad, but just because I thought I was busy. I thought I was busy. I'm trying to live a career. I'm being invited to speak in different places. I'm building a portfolio. I'm doing all of this. But my greatest success, in my opinion, is to make sure that my family is looked after. And that I have children that are mentally balanced. So that for me is priority. And I think every man should put that as well.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. I think it's very good final last. This generation and things that carry from the past, from different life. Interesting to hear be the person that your child goes to for help. Be the safe space. That's go find that help somewhere else. There might be the best place. Yeah.
Safe space.
So
that's the word.
Your child, we really appreciate this. So we appreciate the collectiveness thoughts because we can't get to certain conclusions. So much is gained from the sessions. I think Dr. Joe for being such a role model. Should I emphasize this? So they're here just for the thank you, Vanessa. Even from Ghana, it's trying to be, and we really can't do this. One stereotype about Black men and emotions that we would like to retire from. There was and someone said, "I'll be a man." Yes, those are some thoughts for the day. Vanessa, just to go very quick. But here are some updates from what Khan is doing at the moment. So next week we have another health hour session. Very interesting, very interesting. Don't miss out on the 22nd. Remember, should you want to come, just scan the QR code to register, or join one of our WhatsApp groups. Very easy to join one of our WhatsApp groups. You can get in touch with anyone at info@can.org.uk or with me, and you'll be easily join one of the groups and be in the sessions. As we said a few times today, we have a Manchester Health Festival going on right now. So yes, and make your way to the World Harvard Christian Church Center and meet us there. We look forward to you. Get your free health check. Check your diabetes, check your blood pressure. I do it every time. The nurses are tired of me. So I've been seeing you take this opportunity that will listen to you, that will like you, that understands you. Believe me, makes a world of travel service is in mind. I've shared before. Running us do register to the lovely town community in the beautiful Manchester Cathedral. You don't want to. So I hope to see you there with your loved ones and children. It's just a great time. We have Safer Homes Project in London. Do engage with us. The email is saferhomes@UK. It's down in London. It's all about energy efficiency, CO2, carbon monoxide alarms, and safety checks. Services register, which is something that might be available to you if you're more in a rough spot economically. This is something that might be available to you that you're not using. Dr. Joe said something about services that goes because they're not being used by us. Register. We can help you. We really can. And as you know, Khan has a very wide approach to health. We completely understand that health isn't just a matter of going to the doctor or just physical illnesses or conditions, has much more to do with the disparities of health. So we have excellent services around advocacy, domestic violence, and sexual abuse. We have home sessions that go on every few months, as well as family advocacy sessions and legal drama. So we offer a lot, and you'd be very surprised to know that we are for free. So stay with us. We just want you to, just continue to develop as a person and enrich yourself with all sorts of support and everything that you can get from us in terms of health. We'll try and provide it from you. So I just want to say thank you in behalf of Khan, all of my colleagues. Hi to my colleagues in the Manchester Health Festival. We look forward to you there and next week as well. Thank you.
And that's our time for today. Whether you joined us on Zoom, Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, thank you for making the Health Hour part of your Saturday. We hope today's session gave you the right dose of health wisdom that you can share with your friends and family. When we share knowledge, we strengthen our entire community. Mark your calendar. Next Saturday, same time. Got a topic in mind? We want to hear from you at health@can.org.uk. Health Hour, hosted by the Caribbean and African Health Network.